Hello everybody, and welcome to this Functional Skills English course online here at Peterborough College. In this video I'm going to explain the resources you will need to do the course, and then I'm going to give you information on how to do your initial assessment. Some important things to consider before enrolling on your course is to make sure that you are doing the right course. So if you feel that English is quite difficult for you, if English is not your first language and you don't feel confident in using English in an everyday basis, then you might need to do an ESOL course. And we do run those here at the college, so I'll give you a bit more information on that in another slide. However, if you feel that English is your first language, or that you have a good grasp of the basics of English and that you are somewhat confident, then Functional Skills English is the right course for you, because what we will do is we will work on applying your English to everyday kinds of situations, especially using English in the workplace. So it's really trying to get you to a level where you can work in a professional environment using your functional skills knowledge. Then if you wanted to go on to perhaps study at university or some other form of higher education, you might want to do your GCSE English qualification. And this is usually where English is your first language, or perhaps you've been studying English throughout your entire secondary school years, so you have a very good grasp of the language and you feel very confident. Then you would go on to do your GCSE English, and that would help you to apply for university courses. I would recommend that you find out from the various institutions, whichever university you are interested in going to, whether they will accept a functional skills qualification or a GCSE English qualification. The main point here is that you are definitely choosing the right course for your level of English. Some other important things to consider is that here at Peterborough College, we also offer a range of different English courses. So if you are somebody who struggles with studying online, you might prefer to study Functional Skills English at JobSmart here in the city centre, where we offer face-to-face lessons. They take place during the day and on some evenings during the week. So that is something to look at if you really struggle with online learning. We also have options for ESOL learners, English for speakers of other languages, where you can do an online ESOL course with us for levels 1 and 2, or where you can come in for face-to-face lessons if you are doing entry levels 1 to 3. So whatever you feel is right for you is the thing that you need to think about, and we will also help you to choose the course that is right for you. So in this initial assessment that you're going to send in, some of it is used to determine whether you are on the right course. Alright, so let's look at the Functional Skills English course itself. We run 3 courses per year, and I'll give you those dates later on in another slide. And essentially after the course you will get a Functional Skills English qualification in the form of a certificate, and that usually arrives a few weeks after you have done your course. This is a short course, it's 8 weeks, so it's very intensive, and so you'll have to make sure that you're very disciplined about working online. All of the learning we do is online, so you'll need to make sure that you have a good internet connection in order to do that. And then you'll also need to know that exams week is at the end of the course. That's in the 9th week, and you will come into college to do that. And then here on the right, there's an illustration of the different levels of Functional Skills English that we offer. So if you are a second or third language speaker and you are new to English, you will probably come in at entry level 1, maybe entry level 2 for Functional Skills English. You will then work your way up into entry level 3, and that means you have secured the basic foundation of English language skills. From there, you would move up into level 1, which then works towards a level 2. And the level 2 is sort of the highest level that you will get in Functional Skills English, and that is essentially equivalent to a GCSE grade 4 or the old mark C. And this is what will allow you to go into university should you want to. Like I said, you just have to make sure with the institution whether the course you want to study there will accept a functional skills level 2 or whether they will prefer you to have a GCSE English. But in general, a level 2 functional skills English qualification is seen as being equivalent to a GCSE grade 4. All right, so as mentioned, all the lessons will be online. And every week, your tutor will post a link to some video lessons that you absolutely have to watch. They contain all the information you need in order to complete the tasks. And the tasks will be in the form of a reading task and a writing task. And you will get feedback on those each week. All lessons are pre-recorded, so you can watch the lesson videos at any time that suits you. So perhaps you're working full time and you will then access your work in the evenings or on weekends, or perhaps you're looking after children and you can work your hours around that. So that is really for convenience sake that all lessons are pre-recorded. You'll have 1 week to watch the lessons and to complete the work. You must watch the lessons before you do the work, and the work must be handed in by the deadline. We need to see that you are engaging with the material, that you're sending your answers in, and that you are making improvements based on the feedback that we give you. There could be a risk of you being thrown off the course if you do not hand in work on a regular basis. So just make sure that you're very disciplined about doing that. Another thing that we offer you here as part of the course are one-to-one meetings, and you can book these with your tutor. They will take place on Google Meet, so they'll be online meetings, and this gives you an opportunity to talk about your work and then to ask any questions that you may have. So it's a very handy thing to have access to your course tutors and to clarify any information that you might need or to work on things that you are struggling with. All right, and then onto the important concept of exams. So at the end of the course, if you are ready, you will do 3 exams. You will do a speaking and listening exam. These usually take place in week 7 or week 8 of your course. Okay, and you will need to come into Peterborough College to do your exams. All right, so in week 7 or week 8, you'll do your speaking and listening exams. And then in the very final week, week 9, you'll do your reading and writing exams, and they'll take place in one session. So you'll do your reading exam first, followed by your writing exam. So you'll need to make sure that you have those dates in order to come in to the college. Now, as mentioned in the previous video, if you are ready, you will do the 3 exams. Okay, so your tutor will assess all of the work you hand in to determine whether you are ready to sit your exams after 8 weeks. If you are not ready, we will offer you the chance to continue studying on the course and do the exams at the end of the next course. So, for example, out of the 3 courses that we run per year, September, January, or April, let's say you started this September course, but you found you were struggling, perhaps you couldn't hand your work in on time, perhaps you needed more time to work on some of the assignments. We would then recommend that you continue with the course over January, hand in all the work as usual, and only sitting the exams then. So we just want you to be clear that for the exams, we will determine if you are ready or not based on all the work that you hand in. And this is why it's a really good idea to stay on top of the work and to make sure that you don't fall behind. Another thing to be aware of in terms of exams is that you will need to book your exam dates in advance before the booking deadline. And of course, we will send you those dates out so that you know exactly when you can choose to sit your exams. But just make sure that you have no other commitments on the date that you choose, because once you've chosen that date, the exam bookings cannot be changed after that deadline. So you really need to be aware of that. This is especially the case for level 1 and level 2, functional skills English. For entry-level English, there might be a little bit of room for you to change your dates, but not by much. So it's really important that you make sure you have time available to do those exams. Some important things to consider about learning online. For this particular online course, you cannot complete the course doing things on your mobile phone or on a tablet. You absolutely have to have a laptop or a computer so that you can open up all the different applications that we use for the different assignments and for some of the different activities that we set for you. It absolutely cannot be done on a mobile phone or tablet. So please make sure that you have a good resource for that and that you are prepared to do your work on a PC or a laptop. You'll also need a very good internet connection. And you'll have to make sure that you use Chrome. We work a lot with the Google Suite, Google Classrooms, Google Sites, Gmail, and Google Drive. And so you will need to make sure that you have the Chrome app set up on your laptop or your PC. Please note that with Apple products, sometimes the material does not work with Apple products. So it is of importance that you make sure that you can use Android Chrome on your devices and not use Apple. And so just to sum up, you need to have access to the internet and a computer or laptop. You will not be able to do this course on a mobile phone or tablet. All right, so some of the course resources, which I've touched on already, that we use during Functional Skills English are things like the Google Classroom, Google Sites, Google Drive, and your Gmail account. So we will work between these 4 things, and that should enable you to access the information you want and also to submit your work for marking. Now, aside from your laptop and computer, another thing that you will also need is a notebook and pen. And this is very important because in your reading and writing exam, you will be handwriting your answers. So it's really important that you make sure that you are regularly practicing handwriting. Sometimes if you haven't been to school for a while, you might not be used to writing things out by hand. So it is good to keep on practicing that. And so I would recommend getting a nice lined notebook and a good pen that you can use for your writing assignments. Okay, so some ideas that I'd like to discuss with you are important things to consider about learning online. So learning online can be hard work. You must find enough time to study every week for 8 weeks. Okay, so you're going to have a routine that you get yourself into. And for Functional Skills English, you will need to spend around 4 hours every week studying. So I would suggest trying to get a set time every week that you make sure you are closing yourself away somewhere private that you can try and get those 4 hours every week. Of course, it's very difficult when you have a family around you, but hopefully there will be a way that you can work around that. Now, if you also study functional skills maths online, then you'll need to study it for about 8 hours every week. So you'll have to be extra organized and very, very disciplined with yourself. So it is not something to be taken lightly. You will be able to book online meetings with your tutor to get help and support. As I showed you before, it will be Google Meetings, but you will be mostly working on your own. All right, so that is why the self-discipline comes in on this. You should watch all of the pre-recorded lesson videos every week and take notes to help you to learn. So one of the ways that you can reinforce ideas and language concepts in your mind is to write them down by hand, and you will more efficiently learn those. Okay. You must complete the work set on your Google Classroom by the deadline every week, or you will not be ready for the exams. Okay, so it's absolutely crucial that you stick to those deadlines. You'll be taught everything you need in order to be ready for those exams. Your tutor will mark your work and give you feedback. You must read all of your feedback to help you avoid making mistakes in the future. So one of the ways that you're going to improve is once you hand in an assignment and we mark it and make corrections, please make sure that you are going back and looking at those corrections. Otherwise, you will continue to make those very mistakes. Okay, just a bit of advice about the course. All right, then, how the course works is that you will generally email your work to us. Well, that's what you'll do at first. And then eventually, once you get used to using the Google Classroom, you'll be uploading your work to the Google site and everything will be marked there. So here is an example of an email from discostew@gmail to fsonline@peterborough.ac.uk. Please make sure that you always put a subject line because this tells us the purpose of your email. All right, so you're going to say that it's the English course that you're doing and that it's the initial assessment. You could also put the level of course that you're doing. You are then going to attach your work as a JPEG or a PDF file. And that means that when you handwrite work out, you are going to take a picture of it and then you'll have to scan it and then upload it and save it as JPEG or PDF. Okay. Then make sure that you also send us a short explanation of what you're sending us. So you can tell us why you have emailed us. For example, here, Dear Ria, please find attached to my English initial assessment. Thank you, Simon Wilson. Ria is our lovely course administrator and she helps us deal with any administration on our courses. So you're probably going to see her name quite a bit. But as you can see, it's a very clear explanation of what is happening here in the email and who it's from. Please make sure that you write your full name at the bottom of your email. If you look at Simon Wilson's email address here, we do not know that he is Simon Wilson from his email address. So that's why it's very important that you provide us with your full name. So this is going to be the type of thing that you're going to do for your initial assessment. All right, so for initial assessments, you're going to have to produce a letter. Now, the initial assessment is our way of determining which level of functional skills English you need to be put on. So it's very, very important that you do the initial assessment. All right, and as I said, this is going to take the form of a letter. Now, for a letter, you have a particular layout, right? You can include an address. Please make sure you actually use your real address. This also just helps us to make sure we've got all the details we need for you on file. And then that you include a date. You usually address your letter to somebody, dear, and whoever it's going to be. You can put it to Ria if you like. She's the course administrator, as I've said. Or you could say, dear tutor. And then you're going to look at the topic that we're going to give you and you're going to write a few paragraphs. And then finally, you're going to sign off with your full name. Okay, and as I said, we're going to use your initial assessment to decide which level English course you should study with us. And of course, for the different levels of English, there are different word counts. So if you are at entry level 1, 2, or 3, you are seen as a beginner, and you could write around about 4 to 8 sentences. Okay, but try to make them as good as possible. If you have some experience in English, then you might be put into level 1. You'll have to write about 100 to 150 words. And then if you're very confident, you are writing at a level 2, and you should aim to write about 200 to 250 words, which generally looks like a page or just over a page, depending on the size of your handwriting. So you've got to write your letter by hand. You've got to use pen and paper. I would suggest lined paper so that you can read your work clearly and it sort of lines up nicely. Then you're going to email a photo or a scan of your work to fsonline@peterborough.ac.uk. Now, something that is very important in terms of online learning is that you make sure to avoid plagiarism. Okay, plagiarism is where you don't use your own words, you don't use your own ideas, you take this from somewhere else. And that would include things like using ChatGPT to answer your questions or finding someone's answers on the web. Please make sure that you avoid plagiarism. It is a serious offense and people have been kicked out of college because of plagiarism. So please make sure you are not doing this. I am going to play you a very quick video that explains plagiarism a bit more clearly. Okay, so let's have a look at what plagiarism is exactly.
Hi students, welcome to this short tutorial on how to avoid plagiarism. Plagiarism is taking someone else's work and presenting it as your own. Plagiarism is theft and has serious consequences. Here are 5 tips to help you avoid plagiarism. Tip number 1. Never copy and paste material into your work. When it comes to writing your essay, it can be hard to remember which words are your own and which are someone else's. Tip number 2. Always use quotation marks when copying down information. This way, you will always be able to tell which information you have taken directly from another source. Tip number 3. Paraphrase correctly. When presenting other people's ideas, put them into your own words. Then, include a citation and a reference to acknowledge the original author. Tip number 4. Don't take a chance. UCD uses sophisticated software to detect plagiarism. If you're not sure where a piece of information has come from, it is better not to use it. If you get caught, your grade may be significantly reduced. Tip number 5. Keep a list of all the sources you used when researching your topic. Include all the sources you read in your bibliography, even if you have not quoted from them directly. Don't plagiarise and get the grade you deserve.
Alright, I'm just going to stop the video there. So this video is specifically for an institute called UCD, but essentially the ideas are the most important thing. Please make sure that when you submit assignments or any work that you use your own words, that you try and promote your own ideas. That's not to say that you couldn't go somewhere else for inspiration, that's also fine, but just make sure that if you are using someone else's ideas or words that you put them in quote marks and you reference where you got them from. Okay, so that is something that's very important to keep in mind in terms of completing your assignments. All right, so finally we get to the actual initial assessment itself. So this is what you are going to have to complete. Don't worry about what level you're on or what level you'd like to be on. Please just complete this to the best of your ability. Okay, remember those word limits that I put earlier in the video. You determine which one you'd like to try and aim for. Okay. Now, this particular initial assessment is for students who are new to the course. That means you've never ever done the course before. Okay, you haven't done this course before, and so you are completely new to it. And so I'm going to explain what you have to do. For those of you who have done the course before, on the next slide, I am going to show you what you need. You are what we would call a repeating student, and so you are going to have a slightly different initial assessment to students who are completely new to the course. So if you are a repeating student, please make sure that you wait for the next slide. Okay. All right, for those of you who are new, you're going to write a letter to tell us about yourself. Include details about why you have applied to study this online English course, your previous experience of studying English, so maybe at school or college or what level you might have done in the past, what difficulties there might be for you learning online, what are you going to have to keep in mind, what are you going to have to work around, and then how learning online will fit around, for example, your work and your home life, what your schedule might be, what your routine might be. Okay, so that's what you're going to include in the letter. Please make sure you write in full sentences. So you start with a capital letter and you end with a full stop and you complete an idea in full. Okay. You will be assessed on your spelling, your punctuation, and your grammar, how you phrase your sentences. Read through your work carefully to check for mistakes before you return it to us so that it is of the best quality that you can produce. This assessment must be all your own work. Like I said, we are not interested in plagiarized work. I'm not interested in what ChatGPT can produce. That doesn't really help you in any way. I need you to make sure that you are submitting your own work, your ideas, your use of the language. Okay. Do not ask anyone for help or use the internet to help with ideas or spellings. Like I said, this must come from you. We need to know what level you're at so that we can put you on the appropriate course. Otherwise, it will just be a waste of your time. Aim to spend about 30 minutes writing, okay? So it's not too long. Do the best that you can within those 30 minutes. Just to remind you, you've got to write your letter by hand using pen and paper, and you're going to photo or scan your work to this email address. Okay. Right, so as I said, for students who have done the course already, you are going to now complete a different initial assessment. And you're also going to write a letter to us, but you're going to tell us about your experiences so far in studying FS English online, what you struggled with the last time that you did the course, how you might do things differently this time, and any plans that you have for the future, your career, job, studies, and travel. And you're going to follow the exact same instructions as were on the slide for the new students. So if anything is unclear here, please just make sure to email us at FS Online with any questions you might have. All right, so in terms of sending us your scanned work or the photograph of your work, there are a couple of things that you need to keep in mind, okay? It is going to be impossible for us to mark your work if the photograph or the scan is not clear. The writing here is not sharp enough. We cannot see the concepts on the piece of work. And so please make sure that you keep this in mind when sending us your work. So please make sure you take a clear photo of your work. This again is another problem. As you can see in this example, the photograph is too close. And so there is an edge missing. We can't quite read here what's going on the side, and we can't read the bottom of the work. So you've got to line up your edges and make sure that you capture all your writing within the photograph. Another problem that we encounter is when students don't take a photograph of their work that is straight, lined up properly in the picture. So here the student has written their work out nicely, but it's at an angle, and that makes it very hard for us to line up our online comments with these sort of angled lines. So please make sure that you fit your work into the photograph in a straightforward way. Sometimes we'll receive work that is at an awkward angle, so it becomes harder to see what's here at the top of the page and clearer to see what's here at the bottom. So make sure once again that everything is lined up in a straight manner. Another problem we can have sometimes is that the work is too far away, so we have to try and zoom in to see what's on the page, and it can make it very difficult if it's very pixelated. Also in this example, we have a landscape example of work instead of a portrait, and we mark everything on portrait, so make sure that you have that setting. Also just make sure that you're not getting things in the background. Those are not necessary and can sort of impede the marking process because we don't have space to write comments on your work. Also, just be aware of things like shadows and glare. It can be very hard to mark work that is too bright or is too dark. And so try to keep your work, photograph your work in a neutral environment. And here's just another example of work that is too dark. It can be very hard for us to focus on what you've said there because we're trying to work out what's going on in this darkened page. So once again, it's just being aware of the quality of your photograph or scan. So ideally what we'd like to see is a photograph of your work that is straight, that is clear, that is a good fit to the size of the page, that is well lit, and that is in portrait format, not landscape format. Okay, and then finally, something to be aware of is that at some point your work will be put onto the Google Classroom. Okay, so after marking your initial assessment, your tutor will determine a particular level and they will add you to a Google Classroom for that level. Please do not worry if you've never used Google Classroom. That is the sort of thing that we can help you with in one-to-one meetings. There's also an attachment that we will send you that explains how to get onto the Google Classroom and how to use it. But most of your work, if not all of it, will come from the Google Classroom. So just be aware that that's what you will be using. And then just a final word from us in the Functional Skills Department. We are so happy that you've decided to do your course with us. All we can say is wish you the best of luck, and you can totally do this if you put your mind to it, if you keep disciplined, and if you regularly get in touch with us with any queries that you have. So, best of luck with everything, and we look forward to meeting you once the course has started. Take care. Bye-bye.